that we have planned here. So you're all very welcome. In recognition of Science Week, the Science Department have organised this Life and Health Fair for the year 12, 13 and 14 pupils. And we're very privileged here to have our guest speakers, and they've come from various professional backgrounds and who will provide us an insight with their job and the career path that they have taken to get to where they are. So first of all, can I express my gratitude to these speakers because they have taken time out of a very busy day, and I've no doubt that their experiences and advice is going to be invaluable. To our own pupils here, if you're at a crossroads where you're feeling you don't know where you're going in terms of direction, this is a very good opportunity for you, and please feel free to ask the questions, okay? Today may be one of those light bulb moments for you. So let me introduce quickly our guest speakers. First up, we have Chris McGuire. You're in the wrong seat, Chris, sorry.
Oh,
a paramedic who initially studied nursing, so having experienced both roles, he is quite literally a lifesaver. And he was badly needed there for the alarm going off. Next up is a lifelong friend of mine, Dr. Helen Barrett. She's a GP and partner in a busy health practice in Sligo. Some of you may recognise Catherine from the annual ski trip, but today she's here to discuss her pathway to medicine, not the pathway to the Black Slopes. St Kevin's College is extremely fortunate to introduce Dr. Helen Mulligan in her ranks, more commonly known to you all as Helen, a lady we call on when there's an injury, and also the glue that exists within the science department. Helen initially trained as a pharmacist, then pursued her studies with a PhD in biochemistry. But she further diversified into other positions, but I'll let Helen tell her own story. We're very privileged to welcome Corinna Keaney to St Kevin's, having worked as an occupational therapist in various parts of the UK and Australia. Corinna has moved to Northern Ireland in 2013 and established a company called Occupational Therapy NI. Alongside her colleagues, she provides a wide range of occupational therapy services to adults and children in Northern Ireland. And finally, we have Paul Rafferty, an experienced physiotherapist who runs his own private practice. Whilst Paul has retired from senior managerial position with the Trust last year, he now works for a private company undertaking hip and knee replacement operations. I met Paul last year after I suffered a particularly nasty fracture. My injury required surgery, as you're aware, and 6 weeks of non-weight bearing, towards the end of which it was a psychiatrist I needed, not a physio. But I do seriously credit Paul with not only getting me back on my feet, but also for enabling me to pursue my passion of running. We're extremely fortunate to have such a terrific lineup, and I for one are looking forward to hear what they have to say. So each presentation, just to give you an overview, will last about 10 minutes, and then there'll be a 5-minute question and answer session. So before we welcome our speakers, can I ask you to give the panel a warm welcome from St Kevin.
Hello, how are you? Can everybody hear me, first of all? Yeah. So my name's Chris McGuire. The reason I'm here is because we roped in by Mr. Gannon. It seems a bit strange calling him Mr. Gannon actually, because we grew up together. So this is just a bit of a background about how I've ended up where I've got. Probably a bit surprising if I tell you what subjects I studied whenever I was in your stage in school. The way I've done this maybe once or twice, so I'm not really a very good public speaker, but I'll give you a bit of a background, and that's somebody telling me to get off the road. And then I'll just focus more on the questions. So I'll try to run through this because I think that sort of people get more from questions rather than me just harping on. So a bit of background. So I grew up in Enniskillen. I studied in St Michael's College. Don't boo yet. I would agree with you. Was pretty crap academically, and Adam will agree with that. So I studied. I done GCSEs. Was told to pretty much look somewhere else by the vice principal, not mention names. And I was then told I could do a BTEC, she said BTEC. I thought that was technology. I didn't even know that was like a type of course. So in construction, I remember sitting down the first day. I don't know if you remember this, but got into the classroom and there's a picture of a digger on the screen and there's a guy sitting beside me in the exact same position. And I says, Thomas, what the hell is this? And he says, I have no idea. And then started talking to him. So I was doing a course in construction, didn't know anything about it. I also done music. So I done a BTEC in construction and music, and I ended up in this uniform a couple of years later. Left school, decided to take a year out because I didn't really know what I wanted to do at that stage. Joined St John Ambulance, charity in Enniskillen, I don't know if you've ever seen them. So open to everybody your age. I'd recommend joining it if you're interested in a career in healthcare. And fell in love with healthcare, so didn't really know what I wanted to do at your position, and then started doing St John's and thought, yeah, this is definitely what I want to do. I worked in every ward in the SWA back in around 2011, 2012, and applied. You probably actually can't see this at the back, but applied to nursing. I got rejected from McGuire, rejected from Liverpool, rejected from Newcastle. And Queen's took pity on me and gave me a place. So was never academic, didn't do great in GCSEs, didn't do great at A-levels, and then I found what I wanted to do, and actually ended up with a first class honours degree and one of the top in the year, just because I found actually that I was interested in something. So I worked for 3 years in the emergency department of the Ulster Hospital in Dundonald as a staff nurse, and then decided I wanted to become a paramedic. So initially, when I was in your stage in school, I kind of had idea of paramedicine, but back then there was absolutely no opportunities. It was like a family-run business. So there was no recruitment, there was no degree programs in Northern Ireland. I remember ringing the ambulance service HR department and saying, if I go to England and do the degree course, can I get a job in Northern Ireland? And the answer was no. You still have to go through our programme. And are you going to recruit anytime soon? No. So it was absolutely nothing. So the opportunities, as we'll get on to, have really massively taken off, which is great. So then joined obviously the ambulance service and done the internal training programme, and thankfully became a paramedic. So that's just to prove that I am what I say I am. So that's the 2 registrations, so nursing and paramedic. Gay Conway's going to be very annoyed about this photograph, but so the role of a paramedic, this is really just a bit of spiel from the College of Paramedics, but basically it's somebody who works autonomously, pre-hospital, delivering critical care interventions at all the sort of stuff that you would think of: car accidents, cardiac arrests, very sick people. But it's also, you're more of an all-rounder. You're a social worker, not say physio, but a lot of different things all at once, and everything comes together. So you work autonomously. Autonomously just means you're making your own decisions, more or less, providing care, and then obviously most well known to respond to 999 calls if you're ever in the unfortunate position where you have to ring it. As I said, very little opportunities whenever I was your age, but now paramedics are now working in GP practices and lots of other allied healthcare professionals. So it's really, really taken off. Very exciting time. And as I said, I'm also a nurse. There's another awful photo. This is very broad as well. I think nursing as a profession has really, really taken off since probably the year 2000. When I went to the degree level, and there's so many different opportunities. I couldn't actually list how many things they do. It's absolutely crazy at the minute, but more or less they provide patient care. Anybody that's doing health and social care, you're probably going to be learning a lot of this. So personal care, medications, holistic care, family care, all them sort of buzzwords, and the list is pretty much endless. I thought about talking just about the pros and cons of healthcare, and this is probably pretty well established. So this is not from any textbook. This is just me sitting down thinking about what do I actually really enjoy about the job. So it's very, very rewarding, I must say. You are respected in your community. It's funny, if we go to the same call as the police turn up and get shouted at, and we turn up and we're heroes somehow, but it's exactly the same thing. Lots of career development, camaraderie. You're working as a team, especially if anybody goes into nursing, and the team dynamic is phenomenal. You will make friends for life. Lots and lots of specialisms you go into. If you're interested in a particular area of healthcare, diabetes, Parkinson's, neuro, anything, there's always a specialty for that particular specialism. So you can learn to be a nurse, an adult nurse or children's nurse, and then focus in on something that you really, really like, which is great. In terms of the ambulance service, it is very exciting at times, not all the time obviously, but you really never know what you're going to do. You turn up for the start of your shift and you can end up anywhere I've been at in the barrels of a ship at one point in Belfast docks, which, like, amazing. You are autonomous. The benefit of the ambulance service is one patient at a time. Don't know what the rest of my colleagues would say, but one patient at a time is fantastic. Very stable job. So obviously it's something you're never really going to get redundant from unless you make a very bad mistake. Cons. So if we think about all the media coverage over the last number of weeks, probably the last number of years, if I'm honest, you'll see these messages on Facebook all the time, the SWAs crying out for staff, the Ulsters under extreme pressure. So night shifts, probably my biggest gripe, but it's part of the job. So having to work all hours, Christmas days, seasonal, you never really get guaranteed time off. Pressures, as we say. So this is actually, I don't know if you can see, but this picture is a real picture at Antrim Area Hospital where there was 17 ambulances waiting outside the emergency department trying to get in. So that's a real knock-on effect for pressures out in the community. You're ringing 999 and you're waiting hours for somebody to never mind get there, but actually even answering the phone. Sometimes you ring 999 these days and you're actually put on hold, which is crazy. Overworked, I'd agree with that. Underpaid, definitely. Late finishes, so if you finish at 8 o'clock and you're in one of these ambulances outside the emergency department, you're not getting home until your patient gets in, which sucks. Queues at hospital, and rising assaults and aggression is a big thing at the minute. So drugs and alcohol probably play a massive part in it. They're now talking about bringing stab vests in for us, which is, it's such a change in society that we're talking about this. Body worn cameras like the police are now already a thing, so it's definitely a negative. And there's probably lots more, but I'm going to talk about career development. So this is probably the really sexy, exciting thing on the screen to the right is the helicopter you might have seen landing at times. So a HEMS paramedic, really good role. So flying around a helicopter, going to big car crashes, accidents, trauma, is really it's an opportunity if you go into paramedicine. Especially, it's only recently in Northern Ireland, obviously since John Hines, if anybody's ever heard of him, really sort of went on. So it's just a level above paramedics and different skill set, extra drugs, lots of sort of different things. The hazardous area response team is like the guys are based in Lisburn, so they go to marauding terrorist attacks, sort of hazardous environments, working at heights. Somebody's taking a cardiac arrest up at the top of a crane. They're the ones going up, not me. And then management, if anybody's into that sort of stuff. The world is your absolute oyster. If you go and study to be a nurse and qualify, you can work anywhere in the world. And they are crying out for nurses in Australia, America. Honestly, you couldn't actually list the opportunities. And then, of course, specialisms, as I said earlier, in every possible area. If you're interested in something specific, I would say nursing is your bet. So entry requirements, I put this up, but really you're probably better going on to the websites themselves because this is just copy and paste. So for nursing A-level, you need a BCC, including a science, or BBC if you don't have any science, and that's for Queen's. And then at McGee it's BBC. I think it's relatively the same if you have science. Paramedic, so paramedic degree has only started in McGee. It's only 1 year old, I think, maybe a year and a half. So it's a 3-year course, and it's great this option is now available to you guys because it wasn't for me. It's also BBC. Don't think you need a science subject, but it obviously would be beneficial. It's obviously very competitive, but if you look around the UK, there's lots of different programs available. And if you wanted to do something different, or if you didn't have these grades, like I didn't back whenever I was in your position, you can join the ambulance service in different roles. So there's the non-emergency, like transport roles, you see the white ambulances driving around, and then you can work up internal. So there's lots of courses available to do within the ambulance service to get to paramedic. So which is beneficial in terms of financial. So obviously you go to McGee, you're funding it yourself to an extent. But if you join the ambulance service and apply through the ambulance service, they have 10 funded places every year, and they pay you a salary to do it. So that's very beneficial. And that's the salary, just taken from the Department of Health website. So Nurses start on band 5, starts at 25,000 and goes up to 27. You can apply then for different roles, band 6, band 7. Paramedics start at band 6, so starting 32,000, end at 34. Band 7, don't need to worry about that, but and then if any questions, so I know that's a bit of a whistle stop tour, I'm conscious of time, but has anybody got any questions at this point? Yeah.
How do you actually get used to like seeing all the stuff you would as a nurse, with blood and like paramedics seeing stuff like that? You definitely there's a lot of trauma you see, but to be honest, I'd say less than 10% of the calls you go to are like pretty traumatic in nature. You will see some horrible sights. If you decide to go down the paramedic route or nursing route, but probably more paramedic, you'll see people who have been dead for weeks. You'll see limbs, catastrophic images, and it's tough. And thankfully now that the mental health side of things is really being promoted now, so there's a lot of counselling, a lot of staff engagement and peer support that they try and utilise. Do you ever get used to it? I think yeah, to be honest, I think you do get used to it. You know, once you see it often enough, it strangely becomes normalised, which is probably not a good thing with going ahead. What if you have phobia of blood or something like that?
Probably don't go into paramedic. Yeah, or nursing. Yeah. To be honest. Anybody else?
What helps you keep so calm during the situation?
I'm probably quite calm normally, like just in day to day. Hence standing in front of you guys at 11 o'clock in the morning. I think you have to be in yourself calm under pressure for these jobs. You know, there's times where you've got. I know you introduced us as lifesavers, which is really, really nice. Thank you. But I'd say, in all the time I've been doing this, I'd say 2 people I've saved their life twice. So like that's it. Out of all the calls, I'm talking thousands of calls. So you have to. There's times where you have to just get down to business, and it's going to be calm. So, but I think it's in your nature, you know. And the more you do it, obviously, the easier it gets. You know. Anybody else? Yeah. Oh, like constant. So there's nobody from the fire service here, no? No, that's alright. So they do most of the sleeping. Actually, whenever that fire alarm, they would have been so. I'm trying not to curse, but really excited because it would have been a call. So there's tens of calls waiting every day. We don't have enough ambulances. We don't have enough paramedics to cover the amount of calls. So as soon as you finish with one, you hit clear on the screen. You're just sent to the next one. So as soon as you start your shift in the morning, you're straight out in the call. So, but obviously all the calls are categorised into most urgent. So if you're going to one call and something else comes in, like a car accident or a cardiac arrest, then you're diverted onto that call. So yeah, so constant is the answer. Anybody else? Or is that probably time? Yeah?
That's good. Thank you
No
very
worries.
much.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
Oh, okay, sorry. Hi everybody, my name is Barrett and I'm a GP in Sligo for about maybe 25 years, so a long time. And Sinead asked me to come up and chat because I've known her since we were 4. So if you want answer any questions about Sinead, I'll tell you everything. But anyway, so I would love everybody to get into the healthcare, into GP especially. If you want to do medicine, just go for it. You can contact me afterwards if you want any more information. We have a real crisis in staff at the moment in Ireland and in Northern Ireland, and it's just really hard, to get people into college, to get through, and to stay in Ireland. So if anybody's interested, I'd love to keep you, and you can come and work for me in a few years. And I just want to say about Kieran, sometimes in my surgery, it doesn't happen very often, but I might have somebody, 50-year-old man with real bad chest pains, having heart attacks, blood pressure's down, I think we're going to lose him. We phone 999 and there's nothing better for us to have the paramedics coming in to give us a hand, because they walk in, as you say, cool as cucumber, they've got the gear, they've got the uniform, and they take over and they're fantastic. So I'd say you've probably saved a few more than 2 lives. But there are godsend, so they save our lives. Okay, this is me. We did a website, so this was a professional photograph. So this is me in my surgery, and this is a photograph of a leg, because I keep forgetting the name of the bone, so I go and check. I work in a practice. There's 4 of us, 4 GPs, and we have now 4 nurses. We have 8 receptionists, and then we train as well. So we usually have a medical student with us, and we have a registrar with us. And this term we have a TY student from Ballyshannon staying with us for the week. So this is all the letters after my name. So Sinead wanted the letters. So I can't even remember them because there was a lot that long ago. But we've got a medicine, a bachelor in medicine. We've got a bachelor in CH, which is surgery, a bachelor in the art of obstetrics, and we've got a BSc. Then, when you finish medicine and you go to train, then you start doing other diplomas that just keep you interested, keep your educational skills up. So diploma in women's health, and then diploma in children's health too. Then a membership of the Royal College of Physicians and the membership of the Royal College of GPs. So once you finish college, there's still a little bit of learning as you go along. So, next question. This is my journey. I did my A-levels. I repeated my A-levels because I didn't get enough points the first time. Then I decided I'd go to Dublin. So all of my training was in Dublin. A lot of my colleagues went to Queen's, but I went down to Trinity in Dublin, which is very unusual at the time to go down south. So in my class there was probably about 4 or 5 people from Northern Ireland. And went there, then I did my internship. An internship is after you qualify and you work on the wards, and at this stage you probably work 120 hours a week. But I think now you have to follow the EU, so it could be 40 or 50. So you just worked and slept and worked and slept. And we did 6 months in medicine, then 6 months in surgery. And then at that stage you will decide what route you want to go. So I decided I didn't want to be a GP because it's really boring. I wanted to do medicine, and I wanted to work in HIV medicine. At the time it was like 1998, 1999, so it was just really, taken off HIV. So I went to London then and did medicine for 2 years, and again I worked pretty grueling hours, I have to say, for the 2 years, but it was good fun as well. And then I took a year out, travelled, and decided, oh, you know what, I just want to go and live in the west of Ireland somewhere. So I was lucky because when I was 12 I decided I wanted to be a GP, and I wanted to live in Bundoran or the west of Ireland, whatever, and I wanted to marry a fisherman. So 2 out of 3 isn't bad. Okay, so what do you need to get in? You need to look this up because I was only going on the website and I'm not sure how up to date it is. But first of all, to get into college after your A-levels, you actually have to do an extra exam. So I don't know if any of you know about this or if any of you wanted to do medicine, but to get into the UK, you have to do the UK CAT. So this is like a pretty grueling exam, but it looks at all just how you use your brain and how you can't really study for it. You can study the technique, but you have to get a certain point, and it could be like 90% you have to pass to get into college. Down south is the HPAT, and the good thing, and I don't know if any of you know about this, but there's a lot of postgraduate courses now in Ireland, both in McGuire and down south in Galway, well not Galway yet, but Cork and UCD and the Royal College of Surgeons. So I could go off and do music and then decide, oh, you know what, I actually think I really want to do medicine. And if I pass this exam and I get good enough grades, it certainly doesn't have to be your 3 years, they will take you in as a postgraduate student, and then you've got 4 years in college. So that's just something, and I'll come back to that in a minute. So I think for your A-levels in the north you need 2 A's and an A star. Would that be right? Does that sound right to do medicine? Okay, or a B and C in 2 sciences. Oh yeah, so then to get into down south, I don't know if you actually need these grades. You can get in down south maybe with a B, 2 B's and a C, as long as they're in science subjects. So this is Sinead Lilly teaching us about H2O. I just thought this was funny. I thought you said the chemical composition for water was H2O, and this is the little student here. So what college do you know of that do medicine? Does anybody know where you would go?
Queen's.
Queen's, yeah. Anywhere else?
Manchester, Liverpool.
You could, yeah.
Trinity.
Where?
Trinity.
Yeah, Trinity, yeah. Well, believe it or not, whenever I went to Trinity, I didn't even know there was a college in Galway. I did know there was a college in Cork or a college in Limerick. So these are the different places. So this is UCD. Then this is the Royal College of Surgeons in Dublin, just on St Stephen's Green, great location. This is my centre of excellence, and my bedroom is just around the corner from that I stayed in. This one, you know, is that Queen's? Okay. Derry do have a postgraduate course, and it's probably only a handful of years now in the making. So if you go and you do something else, if you do biology or some sort of science, even if it's not science, you can apply here and do medicine. So you probably will go to college when you're 21, 22, and these people who do postgraduate courses are probably better doctors because they're more experienced, they're more mature. So this is Galway, and I actually lecture in Galway as well, Cork and Limerick. So you have a lot of different places in Ireland, and as you say, of course, you can go over to we used to go to Aberdeen, Manchester, Liverpool. Those were very popular places to study medicine. So I'm just going to, just my background, I started teaching 2 years ago. I lecture for Galway, but because there's so many students in Galway, for 1 or 2 years we ask students to go outside Galway, so we have different academies. So Sligo, which is only down the road, is a place that I teach. So every year in Sligo we have 100 medical students that come out of Galway and do part of their curriculum in Sligo. So I'm just going to play a little YouTube here.
Probably something that does apply to all the academies is that the kind of friendliness of the staff and the engagement with the teachers, that they kind of get to know the consultants and the consultants get to know them by name. I think that's something that they really appreciate and really enjoy.
I think the tutors, the lecturers, the doctors are well beyond my expectation. They're very helpful, very assistive, very kind as well.
The one thing that you need to do is have a really good basic knowledge or a basic set of skills that you need to have to become a doctor, and that basic set of skills is really drilled into them in the smaller hospitals, and that's your empathy, the way you talk to patients, the way you take a history, the way you examine them and come up with a diagnosis. That's the core principles of any doctor, no matter where they end up in their career. It's that set of skills that's going to prove useful to them.
The first time that I got to meet a patient by myself, so I was on placement in geriatrics in the hospital here, and the consultant asked me to take a history and examine a patient by myself and then kind of report the findings to them. And just the fact that I got on so well with the patient did kind of make me feel like I can see myself doing this for the rest of my life.
Okay, so after internship you decide. So you do your 2 years as an SHO, the specialty that you decide in, and then you do 5 years as specialist, then you're a consultant. So, do any of you know any kind of specialities as a doctor? What do you think of when, somebody's a doctor? What kind of job do you think they do?
Well, you'd have to diagnose stuff, wouldn't you?
You would. And what, do you know any specialities? Like, say, GP is one speciality, so that's a special kind of branch of training.
Would a psychiatrist be?
Psychiatrist, exactly. So psychiatry is another branch of training. Dentistry, we start off together in first year and half a second year, then we separate in college.
Oh.
But you would have an oral maxillary facial.
Would a physio be one?
Who?
Would a physio be one?
No. They're different, they go from college. I think we have first year together as well, and then we separate.
Optometry, is that what it's called?
You'd be ophthalmic surgeon is one, yeah. So, I mean, there's things like, say, for general medicine, you have a cardiologist, a neurologist, gastroenterologist, a respiratory physician. Then if you go down the surgical route, you'd have like an orthopedic surgeon, a vascular surgeon, anyway, etc. The list goes on. And as you say, psychiatry, or you'd have obstetric, or you'd have pediatrics. So, so you start here and then you make a decision. So for me, I did 2 years as medical, and then I actually went back and did 4 years as a GP trainer. Consultant specialities, other things. You don't have to practice medicine. You can go into research and make a lot of money there. You can go into cosmetic, you can all do your Botox and your fillers, etc. You can do academia like me and teach your research. You can do locum work, so you can go and work as a doctor for 4 weeks a year and then travel the world the rest of the time. Okay, travel. So this is me in college. I worked in Israel for a summer, so during summer maybe third year, I went off and I worked in the paediatric ward. That's Spanish and German girl. This is Trinidad Tobago. We do a thing called an elective where you go for the whole summer abroad, somewhere like Africa, Trinidad, America, wherever you want. So this is the hospital and that's the ambulance. I worked in the STI clinic with this doctor and this doctor. So great opportunities, and even in college they look after you. The hardest part is getting in. Once you're in, they will bring you through, and most people will qualify unless it's a serious problem. So, 50-year-old female science teacher, generally fit and healthy. So she thought she was only 20, so she decided to go surfing in Rusnarla, and she fell. So, first question, which part of the body is this? Foot, yeah, okay. Do you see anything funny about it or anything?
Swollen.
Where is it swollen? Where do you think? Here?
Yeah.
Okay, what about this? Toenails.
They're painted red.
They're painted red, absolutely. Okay, so does this look painful, do you think, or do you think it's not too bad? Okay. Was she crying?
No.
Huh? Right. Do you think this is a break or do you think it's a sprain? It's very hard to know by looking at it really, but I think the amount of pain
is it a sprain because it's more swollen?
Well, it's actually a break, but you wouldn't know. Okay, so where are you going to? So if you're in Rusnarla and you're sunbathing and she goes, help, 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 I can't walk. What are you going to do? You're going to give her a cup of tea? What would you do for her?
Put a plaster on.
Put a plaster on it, bag of ice. Would you call 999?
You do that after the other stuff.
Yeah, okay. Call 999 and here they are, the boys. What's she sucking on? So she was in excruciating pain. This is all, to keep it safe so she doesn't do any more damage. And this is the x-ray then that she had in the hospital, although this is a different foot. But anyway, does anybody know what these two bones are?
One on the left, the shin.
Okay, Paul, you can let them know.
Yes. Tibia.
Okay, so this, it's two bones, tibia and fibia. So she had actually broken both. So if you look down at your ankle here, but on the inside there's like a bone sticking out. So she broken that. So one of them was screwed, the other one was a plate and screws. Okay, so that's it. And she's done very well.
She's still living.
Okay, any questions? Anybody thinking of doing medicine? Yeah?
If you want to do psychiatry,
Yeah.
then you only need to do 2 years of medical school. You don't actually have to go through.
No, you do. You do 2 years as an SHO and then you have to do your 5 years as a registrar trainer. And then you're a consultant.
So what does that actually look like?
To be a psychiatrist?
Yeah.
What do you mean? What's your job? The type of job?
The training involved with it.
Oh, the training. So the SHO is what we call a senior house officer. So you're attached to a team. So in medicine, everybody's in a team. Even out in the community, we're all in teams. So you are attached with the registrar and a consultant, and the consultant will teach you for those 2 years. And then after 2 years, you do membership in psychiatry, and then you get onto a registrar scheme. So the registrar schemes, you have to apply as like a job interview, so you need to get a wee bit of research, etc. And then you're there for 5 years, and then when the post comes up, you just apply for it. You thinking of it?
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, thank you. You're very
Good afternoon, everybody. It is afternoon now. You all know me. I'm Helen Mulligan. And today, Mrs. Rogers has asked me to talk to you about pharmacy because some of you may or may not be aware I originally trained as a pharmacist many years ago. So today I'm just going to run through very quickly the pharmacy degree. What are the university entrance requirements? What's the main course content? And then a little look at the career options. I'm going to touch very briefly on something which affects most healthcare professionals, and that's the need for what we call continuous professional development throughout your careers as a healthcare worker in order to make sure you're fit to practice and you keep your skills up to date. Finally, I'm going to show you a few slides and photos of my experience being a pharmacy student. There won't be anything too racy because we had to take real photos in my day, so I had to go through all the albums and find some that was not on my phone. So I will give you a bit of my experience of pharmacy. I've also had a very meandering work experience and career. So you can see that just because you pick a career doesn't mean to say you have to stick with it. But what you will find is whatever you learn is never wasted. So you can take your skills and your experience and your academic achievements and you can apply them to lots of different areas of work. And I'm hoping to show you that today. So just very quickly, it takes you 5 years to qualify as a pharmacist now, 4-year degree course at university, and then you have to take a 1-year pre-registration training with an accredited training place. That could be various places. So a lot of pharmacists will go to hospital pre-registrations, they'll go into the community setting, or they may actually go into the industrial setting. You then will have to study for during that year and pass your entrance exam to qualify as a pharmacist, and only when you've qualified will you be allowed onto the register and you're fit to practice as a pharmacist. Small number of universities are currently offering this 4-year course with the pre-registration year integrated into a 5-year course. That has implications. It allows you to do 2 6-month placements instead of 1 12-month, but it's done as part of your 5 years and you won't get paid for your pre-reg training. So that has implications for the future if the universities move along that route. Entrance requirements, you'll need a minimum of 2 A's and a B, and you must have A-level chemistry. You're probably going to need an A in the chemistry A-level. One of your other A-levels has to be from biology, physics or maths, and a lot of the universities are now asking for the biology as a preference. Queen's there, I was looking at their site, they're looking to biology at least to AS level. So you need to be good at the biology as well. Some universities are now accepting the double award life and health, but you'll still need your A-level chemistry. And this is an important point to remember. To get onto the pharmacy course, and I'm not sure about other degree courses, but you will be subject to a criminal background check. So if you've got any convictions, particularly around drugs, you probably won't even get onto the pharmacy course. And certainly when I was doing my degree, we were made very clear to us that during the time that we were studying, that you couldn't afford to have any of those convictions, you would not get onto the register. Which, as a pharmacist, you're entrusted with drugs, you're expected to have enormous integrity around the handling and management and security of those drugs. So they cannot really have people who have drugs convictions working on the register. So this is something always to remember. I wasn't aware of this. There's something now called the excluded student database. So if you've ever been excluded from the university for anything else, that will show up as well on your background check. Okay, personal skills then. So an analytical mind, needs to pay great attention to detail. And you need to be a friendly kind of person and like people, because you're going to be working with lots of people, and you also need to be good communication skills and be good at explaining things to people so that they can understand what they need to do with their medicines mostly. So the pharmacy course content, just going to go through this really quickly. You've got 4 years. The first year very much chemistry, biology based. And then the second year taking that chemistry and biology base to look at pharmaceutical technology and applied clinical pharmacology. And by that we mean the action of the drugs on the body to treat disease. And then year 3, very much drug design and drug delivery. And in year 4, mostly taken up with a research project of your choice and pharmacy practice and some advanced clinical work and patient work. Pharmacy career options. So then you finished your 4-year degree, you're going to then take your 1-year placement. As I said, a lot of people will go into hospital. Hospital offers enormous opportunities for pharmacists. As you can see, you're working part of a team, you're developing protocols, you could be doing manufacturing, testing, supplying, you could be, I know my husband was a pharmacist, he did some work in hospital, and he said, when you're standing in that critical baby unit and you are preparing an infusion for that baby, you're going to make jolly sure that what the drug that you're adding to that infusion is at the right concentration and at the right strength and dose. So there are some very, very difficult jobs within pharmacy as regards formulation and your calculations. So for pharmacy, you do need to be reasonably good at maths. Can't afford for your calculations to be wrong. You can specialise. A lot of hospitals would specialist renal units, so for kidneys, dialysis, a lot of drug work around that, and also oncology, obviously. paediatrics, in emergency departments. You may also be involved in clinical trials. Most trials in hospitals and in pharmaceutical companies will need a pharmacist in order for the trial to go ahead. There's also this level here, which is a fairly recent development, a consultant pharmacist. And a consultant pharmacist really is at the top of their career, clinically. They have developed and demonstrated a real high-level expertise in their particular field of practice, and they're also experts in leadership, education and research. So there is quite a career progression here. I'm not really one for promoting salaries. I think healthcare should really be about caring for people. But I believe that this sort of end will move you up to over £120,000 a year. So there are salaries to be had in pharmacy if that's your main goal. Pharmacy career options then, the other big employer is community. And over the last few years, this has become much more of a clinically based role. So pharmacists now are advising on long-term conditions such as management of diabetes. They're doing blood pressure checks. They're running the vaccination clinics. They were very, very heavily involved in the COVID vaccinations. And I think throughout the COVID pandemic, the pharmacists in the community committed themselves with great courage, staying open face-to-face with the patients, making sure people got their medicines. So they are a very important part of community health care. And in primary care, you can also work as a primary care pharmacist, not in a pharmacy, but in the community, and then they'll be working on management of medicines and developing services for the local population. They would have been very heavily involved in the distribution of COVID vaccines during the pandemic. Another big employer for pharmacists is industry, and this is where you can undertake research, testing, you might be involved in distribution, promotion, developing patents, marketing, and there is big money to be made in industry. This is probably where your biggest salaries will be achieved, but it will be hard work. Okay, and then there's scientific publishing, so you may be involved in writing articles, developing patents for new drugs and grant applications. Academic pharmacy offers you another role, so after your degree and you've qualified, you might go back into academia and research, usually attached to a university, and there you do need a PhD for that. So you'll have to take another 3 to 4 years to complete a research PhD to get your doctorate. Regulation inspection, all the healthcare professionals over here are starting to boo now. Do you want to do it now and get it over with? Okay? These are the big baddies. Okay, as regards their health service. So regulatory affairs departments are found in pharmaceutical companies. So a pharmaceutical company doing research will have to have somebody who's managing the legal aspects of their research. And government bodies will have a number of regulatory bodies. The main one for Northern Ireland is the RQIA, the Regulation Quality Improvement Authority. They will understand all the laws around regulations and management of medicines. A lot less contact with patients, but you will get to inspect premises to make sure that the care being given to patients in hospitals, care homes, children's homes, day centres, domiciliary care agencies, nursing agencies, private hospitals, that they all provide services that are safe and promote the well-being of their service users. So they do, whilst they're not loved, nobody likes to be inspected, and I'll go on to talk about this later, but they are a very important part of healthcare. And then we've got roles in education and training for pharmacists. We've got one of our teachers here is a pharmacist, and she has just recently, last 2 years, went back to uni, completed her 1-year PGCE, trained as a teacher, and as a pharmacist with a teaching qualification, you can teach chemistry and biology to A level, and you can teach any science up to GCSE level. So it is a really good move for a lot of people if they decide they'd rather go into the teaching role. Right, I talked briefly about continuous professional development. In order to retain your registration, every year you have to complete some training. And this will then have to, as a pharmacist, you have to submit your portfolio every year and it will be assessed. If it's not right, they'll reject it and you could ultimately be thrown off the register. Pharmacists are very good at throwing pharmacists off registers. It doesn't take much. They have one of, I would say, them and the NMC, the Nursing Midwifery Council, have two of the toughest registering bodies. They show no mercy. Okay, so you have to meet this requirement every year. Basically, as any healthcare professional, you've got to show that your skills are up to date and that you're fit to practice. And you must be a person of good standing in the community. And this comes up quite a bit, that sentence there, person of good standing in the community. So if I go out tomorrow, get drunk and drive my car, and I get convicted for drunk driving, I'll probably get thrown off the register, because I will no longer be considered a person of good standing in the community. Likewise, any other criminal conviction. Okay, so now I want to spend a little bit of time talking about my story. That's me in the 1960s, as you can probably see from the black and white. It's a very, very long time ago. I'm at the end of my career. I've got maybe 8 years left to work if I decide to keep working. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you how a pharmacy degree has allowed me to do the things that I've done throughout my working life. So these were my school years. I took A-levels in chemistry, biology and maths. I also did what was then called a scholarship or S-level in biology at school. That was a grade slightly above the A-level that used to exist years ago. And then in my working time, I worked part-time for Boots the chemist. So I knew all about pharmacy and community pharmacy before I went to university. I accepted a place at Aston University in Birmingham and had what I can only say was the absolute time of my life. Okay, so this is us in the halls of residence. I don't know what we're cooking, but there's a bit of alcohol. And this is me with the powerlifting team. I used to powerlift, so we had, when you go to university, there's loads and loads of sporting clubs. So this is me joining. We had the best time here, believe you me. Okay, so yes, I partied hard, I played hard, and I'm not going to deny that. But I did work. So it's about getting that balance between play. So what was my experience of the pharmacy degree? There is lots of chemistry. If you don't like chemistry, I wouldn't look at it. You need to have biology. I know they don't specify it, but my experience with those that didn't have the A-level biology did struggle. So my husband was at university with me. We didn't go together. He came from here, from Pretoria. He's an old Praetorian. And he didn't have A-level biology. Pharmacy was not for him. Okay, you need some physics and maths. Your maths has got to be good enough for you to do your biology and your chemistry. That would be the way I'd put it. You need to be able to develop meticulous attention to detail, and this was drummed into us the whole time. Mistakes in pharmacy cost lives. Okay, you dispense the wrong drug, you give the wrong dose, you give the wrong combination of drugs, somebody could die. Sounds a bit dramatic. One of my colleagues was in the inspectorate with me, and she was a renal pharmacist, and she always recounted the tale of developing or filling an infusion bag, for a drug to go in through a drip, and only that her colleague looked over her shoulder and said, "You're out by a factor of 10, and you all know what that means." So she had calculated the drug level to be 10 times that which it should have been. And had that infusion gone in, it could have had catastrophic consequences. So as a pharmacist, you've got to be drilled down and very, very focused on what you're doing. Full-time course, 9 till 5. And I will say to you, make sure your coursework gets in on time and do attend all your lectures. A steaming hangover on Friday morning is not an excuse to take the day off, okay? So you can go and party, but you're going to have to suck it up and make sure you go to your lectures. And then at the end, you have to pass your dispensing and clinical exams in order to get your final degree. So this is me graduating in 1987, and this is my then boyfriend, now my husband. So we both qualified together. And I did my pre-registration training with Boots in Nottinghamshire, where I'm from, majority large store and then 4 weeks small store. And then I took a job as a pharmacist with Boots and hated it. Absolutely hated every minute of it. And at this point I'm thinking, oh dear. So a chance encounter with my old professor from my undergraduate year, he asked me would I go back and do a PhD and work with him on his research project. So I went back to Aston and I did my PhD, biochemistry based, mechanisms of cancer cachexia. So that was looking at the pathways, metabolic pathways leading to weight loss in cancer patients. This is how you probably know me. And this is where I think I'm probably the most comfortable, in the white coat, doing what I call hard science. Okay, so this is me in the Cancer Research Campaign laboratories between, I'm trying to think, 88 and 91. And this is us, me and my colleagues in 91 graduating. What I will say is, neither the mortarboard nor the Henry VIII cap is very flattering. So don't expect to look gorgeous on your graduation, okay? Then this happened. So I was going along, having a great time with my research, took a job with the university, working, doing more research as a research fellow, and then I got married and we decided to move back here. During that time I took a couple of different kinds of jobs, went into health promotion, which was quite a nice job. I actually worked with the ambulance service. So they were great, they were all men, so I can say the ambulance people, I suppose I should say, but we actually went round workplaces teaching CPR to people in the workplace. So we had a program of teaching resuscitation techniques in people's workplaces. So that was a great year. And then I actually decided to do a bit of a management job to get some experience there, and I managed the Citizens Advice Bureau in Enniskillen for 3 years. And then this happened. 2 children. I decided to take a wee step back and worked on the Peace Project money for Fermanagh District Council for a while, and then this is the happiest 5 years I think I've ever spent, working in a P1 classroom as the classroom assistant whilst the children were not young. At this stage I decided I need to do something else. The kids are back at school, they've started school, so I retrained. I toyed with doing a PGCE and going into teaching, but then I decided to retrain myself and went back to locum pharmacy, self-employed, and then this is when I took this job here, and nobody liked me. Okay, nobody likes you. That is a tough job, inspecting. And I did that for 15 years, mostly in the west of Ireland, but then throughout Northern Ireland when RQIA became a Northern Ireland-based organisation. And that called on every bit of your skills, your experience, your expertise, your knowledge. So you needed your pharmacy knowledge, but you needed to work with people, you needed to have confidence, you needed to understand legal categories and regulations. So that was a very difficult job. About 15 years I did it, and then I took redundancy mostly for health reasons, and then this is me now, back where I believe I'm the happiest, doing the science with the lab technician coat on. So this is where I am now. So you can see it's been a wide, varied career, but I believe that pharmacy has been the foundation for all of them. The skills around attention to detail, the ability to organise yourself, project development, and trying to work with people in a team. So just in summary, chemistry A level is going to be essential, and biology highly recommended. It's fairly academically challenging, and it is going to take you 5 years. Lots of career options. Lifelong learning is required if you're going to keep your registration, but it will develop a lot of transferable skills, and it will facilitate career breaks, and there are good career progression opportunities. Thanks very much. Anybody got any questions? Or?
Even if you're an inspector, where you have to be inspected while you're not.
Am I inspected when you're doing that? Yes, as a professional you're always inspected. So when on some of the inspections I went on, the senior inspector would have come along and inspected my work.
And then does someone have to inspect?
Yes, the person above them. So yeah, I mean if you work in a community pharmacy you will be inspected as a pharmacist as well. So the inspectors will come from the department to see what you're doing. It's quite nerve-wracking. I'm sure people here would admit it is quite difficult being inspected or being part of an inspection process. Anybody else? Or? Okay, thanks very much.
People think of OTs as working in hospitals and giving out equipment to help people get home from hospital. And obviously, when you're in hospital, the first thing you want to do is get home. So, you know, we might help with equipment to get in and out of bed, in and out of the car, in and out of the bath safely, so that, you know, you can get home and you can be safe. But actually, there's a lot more to it. And really what we look at as occupational therapists is the things that you all enjoy doing every day, or that you need to do, or that you want to do. So think of, you know, you don't have to say anything, but think in your heads, things that you enjoy doing, you know, that makes the day interesting for you. Do you play football? Do you like going shopping, going out, playing video games? Those kind of things. Now think of if something happened, say you had an accident and you were in a wheelchair and you couldn't actually do that. Well, the OT comes along then and helps you to to do it, but just maybe do it slightly differently, because we believe that actually doing the things that we love help us both physically and mentally, and just help with our well-being every day. I've got a video which probably explains it a lot better than I ever can.
We all have life goals, things we need and want to do. Sometimes things get in the way of our goals. Life events can make our goals seem impossible.
I love gardening, but it's difficult because I have arthritis.
I want to drive my car, but I couldn't after my stroke.
I need to find a job, but it's been challenging since being diagnosed with schizophrenia.
I want to make new friends, but it's hard because I have autism.
I need to get dressed in the morning, but I just had a hip replacement and can't bend forward.
I have difficulty managing my responsibilities because of my anxiety disorder.
I haven't been able to ride my bicycle since I had a brain injury.
I need to do my grocery shopping, but it's difficult to remember when I have dementia.
It's tough to care for my baby because of my carpal tunnel syndrome.
I need to walk my dog, but I have multiple sclerosis.
I want to learn the guitar, but my right arm is amputated.
I had a spinal cord injury, but I want to live on my own. My occupational therapist helped me to achieve this goal.
Occupational therapists help people to find the tools and strategies they need to overcome barriers such as illness and disability and reach their goals.
Now I live on my own.
I'm learning the guitar.
I can walk my dog.
I can care for my baby again.
I am able to do my grocery shopping on my own.
I can ride my new special bike.
I am working on managing my responsibilities.
Now I can dress myself.
I'm making new friends.
I'm working with my OT to find the right job for me.
My OT helped me to drive again.
I have a garden now.
Because of occupational therapy,
I can!
There we had a lady who really enjoyed gardening but wasn't able to do it because of arthritis, so the occupational therapist helped her access the garden and give her gadgets to enable her to be able to garden properly or safely. We had the gentleman who couldn't drive because he'd had a stroke, so OTs get very involved in helping people have their cars adapted so that you can actually still drive safely. Lots of people drive their car from their wheelchair. We had a gentleman who had schizophrenia who wanted to get a job. So OTs are very involved in helping people identify their skills and match that to jobs that they can get in the community, or even identify training and help and support them to get the training in order to get a job. There was a young person with autism who wanted to make friends. So OTs work a lot with children in schools and at home and develop relationships and friendships. There was the lady with a hip replacement. This is where OTs are probably very well known. So somebody's in hospital and they will give them gadgets to be able to get home and manage safely and independently in their own home. There was the gentleman with anxiety who wanted to manage his own responsibilities. So OTs work a lot, you mentioned about psychiatry earlier, OTs work a lot in psychiatry as well, enabling people to identify what their triggers are and just develop strategies to cope at home and in the community and back at work. There was the girl with the brain injury who I think she wanted to ride her bike. So OTs are very involved in equipment and specialist equipment. So they were able to get her a bike that gave her the support to be able to go out and about. Who else was there? There was the gentleman with dementia who wanted to be able to do his own shopping. And getting out in the community and doing your own shopping and looking after yourself is really important for people. So the OT can help develop strategies and memory aids so that the gentleman was able to get to the shops himself, go around and do his shopping and get home safely. There was the lady with carpal tunnel syndrome. For anybody who doesn't know, carpal tunnel just causes pain in your hand and you have difficulty gripping and holding things. So that lady had difficulty holding her baby and looking after her baby. So the OT was involved in looking at different ways of holding and carrying the baby safely, and we can also provide splints and supports for arms and wrists so that you've got a better grip and it manages the pain better. There was a young person as well with an amputated arm who wanted to learn to play the guitar. And again, it's looking at different ways of playing the guitar, and OTs are very involved, along with physiotherapists actually, with prosthesis, so prosthetic limbs like arms and legs, and help train people to be able to use them and be independent again. And there was the gentleman with multiple sclerosis who wanted to walk his dog, and the OT helped him get a scooter, so he was able to take the dog for a walk and walk further than he would be able to walk and be able to get home safely as well. So all of those things enable people just to have, it's all about quality of life really and independence. And then when you can do the things that you want to be able to do, it just gives you a greater help, boost your health and well-being really. So for me, my journey, I grew up down south, and after I did my Leaving Cert, I went across the water to train. At the time here, the occupational therapy was in Trinity in Dublin and Jordanstown. I think Jordanstown has now moved to McGuire. There wasn't as many courses available as there is now. Now, obviously, there's loads of universities across the border, but here there is McGuire and then Dublin, and there's Cork and Galway. They're all 4-year courses. And then there's actually a 2-year accelerator course in Limerick. So that's a really intense course. So you have the whole course condensed into 2 years, not much holidays, but there are lots more ways of training it to be an occupational therapist. When I qualified then, I worked for a couple of years in hospitals and got lots of experience. Catherine was talking about the different specialties. You've got medicine and surgery and orthopaedics, and there's loads of different areas in which you can work: wheelchair services, paediatrics, community. And doing that when you first qualify gives you an idea of the various services that are out there, and some of them you will like and some of them you won't like. And after 2 years then I went travelling, and I was 22 and I was like just going to have a good time. So when I got to Australia, I was going to work in a bar and just enjoy life, and I realised that actually if I worked as an OT that I'd get more money, which actually helped fund the travelling. So when I was in Australia for a year, I worked for a couple of months as an OT, funded a little bit more travel, worked a little bit more, travelled a little bit more. So when I got back then, instead of having a gap on my CV of 2 years out on the jolly, I actually had experience working as an OT in different countries, which really helped then when I was looking for jobs here. So after I came back from Australia, I moved to England and I lived there for about 10 years. And a bit like Chris was saying, even about nursing, there's such a wide spectrum of places that you can work, geographical places, but also specialties, and it really is, the world is kind of your oyster really. And if you don't like, say you're working on the wards in medicine and you don't like that, you can go and you can do something else. I always love the community, because I think OTs, we work to help people be independent, so actually seeing people in their own homes is really, it's where you live and it's where you do everything, so that's really for me anyway, I found it was the best place to see people and to be able to help them properly. So I moved back here in 2013, and for the first time I worked in a care home for a year, and that was all about helping people be as active as possible and do the things that they enjoy doing, which obviously helps their physical and their mental well-being. And after that I worked with a charity, so in the voluntary sector, and it was a charity called Muscular Dystrophy UK, which supports people who've got muscle wasting conditions. And that's really exactly what it says, where people's muscles get weaker and weaker and they have difficulty walking, talking, feeding themselves, getting washed and dressed. So my job was to support them and their families to be as independent as possible. And after that, I then set up my own private company. So myself and my colleague, she lives all the way over in Newry, and we cover the whole of Northern Ireland, and we provide occupational therapy services to adults and children right across Northern Ireland. As I said, we do a lot with people in their own homes. There was a gentleman with spinal injury there in the wheelchair at the very end of that video. So there's a lot of work in terms of looking at people's homes and where they live and whether they can live safely. And with somebody like him in a wheelchair, you're looking at accessing his house, making sure that he can get in and out of the house okay, that he can get around the house, that the doors are wide enough, that there's bedrooms and bathrooms and all the facilities that they need on the ground floor. So we do a lot of that with specialist equipment. And we also work with children in school and at home, and most recently as well I've been working with people and getting them back to work. So certainly since COVID, and people had real difficulties having to be at home and not really seeing anybody. So now I do a lot of work with people and identifying their skills and the jobs that they enjoy doing and helping and supporting them to get employment and maybe identifying training. So a bit like Chris said, it's very wide ranging, and certainly as Helen said, there's a lot of kind of continual professional development. You're always learning. There's a requirement for you to keep on top of everything. But it's a great profession. I love it. And yeah, like it can help you like all over the world. So if anybody's got any questions, shout out. Yeah.
Do you work with patients just with mental health, not more than physical, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. They work right across the board. So all kind of mental health problems, from anxiety and depression, adults and children.
So you say you have to be pretty clued into that sort of thing,
It comes again, like as Helen was saying, about your continual professional development. So the training in university, it is across all areas. So you'll do different blocks. So you would have obviously look at anatomy, physiology, and all the physical conditions, but you also do look at mental health and psychiatry as well. Yeah. And then when you go out on placements during the university course, there's normally 3, sometimes 4 blocks of placements, because you have to qualify. You have to do 1,000 hours of clinical placement. So you will be out and you'll get a vast range of experience on those. And then when you first qualify and you're starting to work, you'll always, like Catherine was saying, you're always working in a team. So there's lots of people there to learn from. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is it kind of like pharmacy in the sense that with it you can go anywhere mental health wise, like therapy related, or is this branched off of something else?
Yeah, no, absolutely, because OT, it's its own profession. We work certainly in physical settings, like in hospitals, so we would work very closely with our physio colleagues. In psychiatry, we'd work very closely with the doctors and nurses. And it's about helping people to be independent. So it doesn't matter what your difficulty is, if it is a psychiatric problem or a physical problem. We talk to you and get to know you and what you like to do every day, and then we find ways of helping you to do that. The thing is, you might end up doing it slightly differently, but the whole plan is that you can still do it. Anything else? No?
My name is Paul. I'm a physiotherapist. I work in Enniskillen in the hospital. But I'm just going to get you to pass some of these joints around and have a wee look. I know there's before I go on to my own area of work, I just want to clarify a little bit just about pay, because lots of people in this room are all going, well, if I qualify as an OT, as I qualify as a pharmacist, if I qualify as a nurse, because there are different pay scales. There's not. In Northern Ireland, we're all paid at the same bands. So if I go off to college and become a physiotherapist and I start at band 5, if I'm a podiatrist working with feet, if I am a pharmacist, if I am an occupational therapist, if I am a dietitian, if I'm a nurse, we're all paid at the same level. Some professions start at a slightly higher level. Pharmacists start at band 6, and that's their pay scale, so they come in at band 6 because they've done a 4-year degree. Most other professions start at band 5. But throughout your career, as you're working within health, you will be paid at roughly the same level. So a band 7 physiotherapist working in the hospital gets exactly the same pay as a band 7 pharmacist, or a band 7 dietitian, or a band 7 podiatrist, or a band 7 nurse. You're all here because you're interested in health, and I really think, folks, that the world is your oyster within health, because there's so much that you can do and you can expand. Has anybody seen a physiotherapist?
Yeah.
Hands up. Yeah? Okay, probably sports injuries. People sort of tend to think this physio's working in sports. And yes, big part of physio is working within sports injuries, but it's not the mainstay of what most physiotherapists do. So my name is Paul. I work in Enniskillen. Here's a picture of our lovely hospital in Enniskillen behind me. I'm 57 years of age, so I'm qualified 34 years, and so I'm out working in health long before you were even born. And the world back then is completely different to what the world is like now whenever you will go through a health career. Careers are expanding all the time. Careers are so different. What will this new health centre in Lisnaskea look like as time goes on? So we're going to be building a brand new health centre here in Enniskillen. You'll have GPs, you'll have physios, you'll have pharmacists, you'll have OTs, you'll have podiatrists, all working, and nurses, all working within a new facility here in Lisnaskea. You will ring up. In the past, it was you ring your GP and you talk to your GP, oh, I've hurt my hip. And you go and see your GP, and the GP will then refer you on. Our future's completely different now, folks. You will ring up your local GP and you will ask, can I see the physio in the practice? You'll go in, the physio will assess you, make a diagnosis, order your x-ray, order your MRI scan, give you your drugs, and discharge you. Because that's what medicine is going to be looking like as you get older. If you need to talk to the pharmacist now, you will ring up and you will automatically go through and see a pharmacist working within your GP. Whereas in my day, GPs, everything had to go through the GP. And as you know, the amount of GPs in Northern Ireland and people going into that side of things is dramatically reduced. Therefore, there's a big requirement on other professions to come on board and step up. And we are all continuously developing our careers to get to those stages where I can prescribe drugs, I can order an MRI, I can order an x-ray with the patient sitting in front of me. What is physiotherapy? Physical. So you have seen various joints in front of you. So you physically have to examine a patient. You have to move their shoulder, you have to move their knee, you have to move their hip. You physically have to examine them and make a diagnosis of what you think is wrong. And you treat that patient and you discharge that patient. So anatomy is key. We spent a lot of our 3 years at university working, training within anatomy. Being able to assess, has somebody torn a ligament, have they torn a muscle, have they torn a tendon, have they possibly a fracture, do you send them for an x-ray, do you send them for a scan, have they torn their cartilage in their knee? So as you can see the knee going around there, yes, okay, so knee, the blue bit, you've probably all heard of a cartilage, people tearing the cartilage inside their knee. So that's that little blue bit, that's a little bit of, that's like a hard sponge inside the knee. So whenever the knee is, you're jumping up and down and skipping, that blue bit is a very, very elasticated cartilage, which is like a spring, okay? In older people, as we get older, and that cartilage there starts to wear away, then the bone becomes arthritic. And I'll show you a little video here about a patient who's just had a knee replacement done in Enniskillen. People in here who might have a little bit of pain in the front of their kneecap when they're going up and down stairs or running. So, we would assess people and then we would give them exercises to do to help with their knee pain. So, physiotherapy, like occupational therapy, like podiatry, like nursing, like paramedics, in Northern Ireland now is all done in McGuire. Okay, so used to be done in Jordanstown whenever I went there, so that was back in 1984, 85. So I went to Jordanstown, but now everything's moved to McGuire. And I think that's really exciting because, as Catherine mentioned, there's now a 4-year medical course that you can do, so you can go on and become a doctor. So you can go to McGuire to become a doctor, you go to McGuire to be a physio, you go to McGuire to be an occupational therapist, a speech therapist, or a paramedic. And it's all in one campus now in Derry. And I think that's really exciting. Whenever I went to Jordanstown, I never saw a doctor, I never saw a podiatrist, I never saw an occupational therapist, and we were all trained separately, whereas now you're all in one college, and those courses all started in McGuire September 18 months ago. So you get an honours degree, You go there for 3 years. And sorry, I've taken this off the website, folks, so if you're looking to do physio, please go into McGuire website, the UU website in McGuire, and it'll give you all of these details. So this is just the prospectus of the website. So you need 3 Bs, your A level. As I think Corinna mentioned earlier, but biology I think is key. If you have biology, whenever you're going to do physio, it'll help. Okay, you don't. It's not necessary, but you need 3 Bs in your A levels. Again, please look in the prospectus because they will advise on HNDs and different ways. In my day, 35 years ago, that's the only route we had. Now there's so many routes into healthcare. People have already said that. You know, there's different ways into healthcare, so don't give up if you're really, really keen and you're doing various awards or double awards or HNDs, folks. I think any of those healthcare professions are really exciting to be in, and you will have a job for life. So you need to have be from one of the following: maths, physics, chemistry, biology, or a CCEE single award, life and health sciences, double award. I'm not clear on those because that's not my world, folks, so you probably know those different courses that you can do. But that's the entry grades to get into McGuire to do a physio. Lots of people think that physios work in sports. So, I'm 35 years qualified. I was a physio for County Fermanagh footballers for 12 odd years throughout the 90s and early noughties. So I've been out with all of the Fermanagh teams. I worked with the Fermanagh senior hurlers. For 20 years I went to the Milk Cup, or the Super Cup as it's called, with the Fermanagh teams. Currently at the minute I work with the Fermanagh minors hurlers and the Fermanagh under 20 hurlers. But I work in a hospital. So all of that work that I do is all private work. Okay, and that's a big thing that I like about physio, in that you can be working away in a hospital environment, but you also can work privately. I live in Pampo, I have my own private practice, and I work at night. And so whenever you're thinking of various professions and you think, well, what do I want to be? You know, nursing, medicine, lots of on-call. Okay, so if you're a nurse, you'll be working Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays, and medicine, you're working weekends. Other professions like physio and occupational therapy and dietetics and speech therapy and podiatry, those other professions you work mainly 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And then the good thing about physio is that you can work privately in the evenings on your own. And you can then work with various sports teams. But only a very small amount of physios actually work in sports teams. Again, I'm 35 years qualified. I would say that 20% of my work is dealing with your age group, dealing with under 25s, dealing with sports injuries. Even though I work for the hurlers, and I'm out at training a couple of nights a week. 2 matches tomorrow in Irvinstown, the minors and the under 20s, both have hurling matches tomorrow against Tyrone. Anybody interested, come down to Bonnecker. But even saying that, only 20% of my life is actually working in sports injuries. 80% of what I do is over 60s, over 50, people over the age of 50. So life as a physio is not all sports, okay? We work in hospitals mainly, and in the community. So working in elderly care, working in intensive care, people who have car crashes, they're in a coma, they're on a life support machine. Physios will go in and we will stick tubes down into their lungs and get all that sputum out. So physios are actively involved in helping people breathe and getting air into their lungs, which is respiratory care as well. Stroke care, I worked for 15 years in the stroke unit in Near Hospital. So a lot of my background is working with over 60s, over 70s, over 80s, people who've had a stroke, which means you're paralysed from the waist, paralysed on one side of your body. Again, working in mental health, not a big part of physio is mental health, although a lot of patients that come to us would have, mental health issues. Orthopedics, I want to show you a wee video now of what I currently do within the hospital. And the last line is not just in musculoskeletal and sports injury. So physios do not just work there. 20% of what I do is musculoskeletal, and that's being able to assess a joint, being able to look at somebody's ankle, being able to look at somebody comes into you with ankle pain, being able to assess that ankle, know the anatomy, know all of those ligaments that are around the ankle, diagnose which ankle ligament is torn, and put a plan in action for that patient. And the good thing about physio is I was able to shout at Miss Lunny, Miss Rogers, going through her rehab. So she mentioned earlier, you've seen the picture of her fracture. I was able to get her to rehab herself to get her back running within 2 months. 3 months. So somebody had a bilateral fracture, 2 major bones broken in their ankle, following intensive physio, was back running within 3 months, and is now running 5Ks pain-free. Okay. Okay, well, the other big thing now, folks, as you probably all know now, the HPAT is gone within some of these health sciences, that it's video interviews. I don't know, maybe if you have done anything with those yet, but to entries into these courses now, you have to video yourself, I think, and then you submit that as part of your entry. So if you get the grades, or if you're thinking of doing physio or some of the other health sciences, I'm not sure about OT or pharmacy, but ours is now a video interview technique where it used to be the HPAT. My daughter is a pharmacist. She failed her HPAT. Didn't get in to apply for physio, applied for pharmacy, didn't get in for physio, failed her HPAT. My son's a doctor in Queen's, he's a trainee, failed his HPAT. Okay, didn't get in to do physio, but yet he is now training to be a doctor. So the HPAT was a bit silly, okay, and thankfully now they've gone to more interviews to try and get the right people to do the course. Again, people have mentioned it earlier about our regulation, so it's vitally important, folks, that you do be aware of that. You know, you're working with vulnerable children, you're working with people, and there's big legal requirements, so you know, you just need to be careful and think about yourself socially as you're going out and taking videos, and you know, just think about those things throughout your young life, that you don't get involved in things that might lead you to, you know, have problems just applying for courses in the future. And you have to have XSNI, so that means there's always background checks that take place on you. So what do I do at the minute? I have worked for the Western Trust for 33 years. I worked as a physio, working with strokes. I worked private practice for 30 plus years. I went on into management, so for the last 10 years of my career I've been working in management in health. I decided last year I'm going to move back into treating patients. So what we're doing in Enniskillen Hospital at the minute is we're doing hip and knee replacements. So if anybody has the knee in front of them, basically what they do is they're taking out that blue bit and they're putting into a metal joint right inside your knee. So you go, we did 550 hips last year, and we've now started this year to do knee replacements in Enniskillen. And physio is a big part of the rehabilitation. So this lady had a new metal joint put in her knee 3 weeks ago. I work with her. We've done 20 knees in the last 3 weeks, and we've done 49 hips. So in the last 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks in Enniskillen, we're doing hip and knee replacements. We've got about 70 joints to 80 joints in total. So what is physio? This is only one part of physio. This is rehabbing people after they've had a knee replacement in, where she's doing her exercises. She has to be able to get that knee to straighten, and she has to get that knee to bend over 90 degrees. If she doesn't achieve that in the next 6 to 12 weeks, the chances of her being able to go up and down stairs will be limited. Getting in and out of her car, she's going to struggle. So we really push physically people to do rehabilitation to get them back to where patients want to be. They want to be back driving the car, they want to be going back in around Asda, and that's what physios work at, that hands-on physical. If she wasn't achieving that, I would be bringing her in and forcing her knee and physically stretching and manipulating and moving her knee to get and improve that range of movement. So, in conclusion, I think physio is a brilliant career. All health sciences or all healthcare, folks, is really exciting. You do work as part of a team. You're not working in isolation. You know, at the end of the day, with orthopedic surgeons, with doctors, you're putting that knee in. We've got an anaesthetist who's knocking that patient out so that she can have the knee put in. We've nurses working in the ward. We've nurses working in theatres. Occupational therapy, so once that lady goes home, does she need help in her house to get her home? She didn't. So, but to me, it is, I think, a really exciting career. Thank you.
Look, folks, I think it's been absolutely brilliant. I'm sure you'd agree with me. You know, we've had so much information there and so much positivity about the healthcare professions. If it is something that you're thinking of going down, you know, hopefully that has emphasised, you know, your importance, or you know how you feel about taking one of those courses on. There's been a lot of insight into their actual career, and I think what it actually emphasises too, the fact that there are various different pathways to get to where you want to be. So don't give up, I think is the message as well. If there is some direction you want to go and you just aren't getting there the way that is straight and narrow, you know, there are opportunities other ways. So just, I'm really appreciative of them coming here, and I know the time has gone on, but it has been fantastic, and maybe we could just again give them a warm applause.